South Africa has declared violence against women a national disaster. The move follows countrywide protests and an online campaign held today. Women were encouraged to withdraw from the economy for one day and lie down for 15 minutes at noon, honoring the 15 females reportedly murdered and daily in the country. The state had earlier refused to classify the issue as a disaster, but reversed its position after evaluating the persistent and immediate risks posed by ongoing violence. Let's now listen in to what the protesters who participated in the rally had to say.
GBV in South Africa is an extremely challenging issue for us. Sometimes we have been called the rape capital of the world. That is not a distinction that we would like to have here. It is an extreme situation. Some of us feminists call it a pandemic.
I've had sisters, brothers, cousins, mothers affected by gender-based violence, affected by, sexual assault. And I'm just here to represent them, knowing that they couldn't be here, knowing that they couldn't make it, and to represent every single woman and child in South Africa, knowing that we go through this every day. 15 women are killed every single day, and it's not talked about enough. Quite frankly, it's not talked about.
Now, it is important to note that South Africa records some of the highest levels of gender-based violence in the world, with female murder rates 5 times higher than the global average, according to UN Women reports. The COP30 climate summit in Brazil has faced intense debate over fossil fuels today. The latest text released earlier today made no mention of fossil fuels, removing options that were part of earlier versions. This move has sparked strong objections from more than 13 nations. Now, the group of countries has sent a letter to the summit presidency saying they could not accept a deal without a roadmap to transition away from fossil fuels. This has set the stage for a showdown in the final hours of the conference. Interestingly, the final draft has still proposed tripling global climate finance by 2030 to help nations adapt, but they did not clarify whether the funds would come from wealthy countries, developed banks, or the private sector. Negotiations have been contentious, with oil-producing nations, including Saudi Arabia, pushing back against any fossil fuel phase-out. But developing nations have expressed concerns about the deal's limited attention to finance and support issues. Supporting countries including France, Germany, Spain, and the UK warned that the draft in its current form has failed to meet minimum conditions for a credible COP output. High-profile officials and leaders have attended the public plenary to discuss the draft. Let's listen in to what they had to say.
It is not a serious basis for negotiations. It fails the Amazon, it fails science, it fails justice, and it fails the people we are here to represent. It simply cannot be legitimized. There is no mention of fossil fuels phased out, or phased down, or deforestation. Nothing. This COP is even failing to repeat language already agreed in previous years and under the global stocktake. Failing to name the causes of the climate crisis is not compromise, it's denial, it's criminal.
In this moment, we reject that, and we also ask the parties to reject that and do the responsibility that they have in this moment. We cannot finalize this COP without this only words. We need real plans, real roadmaps to continue working together to achieve a real mutirao, as the President is saying.
We agreed 2 years ago that we are going to transitioning away from fossil fuels. And we have not done that. Not only we have not done that, emissions are still growing. NDCs are showing us that there is a pathway towards decreasing emissions. It's not enough because we're going to overshoot. And hence, we have to act on those decisions that we took yesterday. And it's a bit disencouraging to hear that, that there are still many countries that, although they signed up for transitioning away, when it comes to act in consequence to that commitment, they don't want anything to know about.
The EU's climate chief has warned that the UN climate summit could end without a deal after COP30 host Brazil proposed an agreement that does not include a roadmap away from fossil fuels. The European Commissioner for Climate called the current draft unacceptable and expressed disappointment with the lack of ambition or mitigation. More than 30 countries, including wealthy nations, emerging economies, and small islands, state had warned in a letter to Brazil that they would reject any deal that did not include a plan to move away from fossil fuels. Now, consensus is needed among the nearly 200 nations at the UN climate talks to land an agreement. NGOs also have rejected the draft deal, with Greenpeace urging nations to send it back to the Brazilian chair for revisions. Divisions remain not just over fossil fuels but trade measures and finance for poorer nations to adapt to climate change and move to a low-carbon future. Listen in to what the European Union Climate Commissioner had to say.
President Lula, and we are fully on the same page as he is, has called for hugely more ambition in terms of mitigation. The NDCs fall well short. So the main task the world has is to drive for more ambition. And if you add that all up, and you then look at the text that we now have in front of us, I mean, how can anyone who is reading that across the world not be deeply disappointed?
As we continue to track more news updates on COP30, France has said that Russia, Saudi Arabia and India, along with many emerging economies, were the main obstacles to a COP30 deal on phasing out fossil fuels. German Environment Minister Carsten said that the latest draft deal, unveiled by COP30 host Brazil, cannot remain as it is and warned that the negotiations will be tough on the last day of the UN climate talks in Belém, Brazil. Brazil's President Lula da Silva has put his support behind the call for a global roadmap away from coal, oil and gas, which are the primary drivers of global warming. But the proposal is opposed by a group of mainly oil-producing nations, and consensus is needed among the nearly 200 nations at the climate talks to land the agreement. Here's what the French Environment Minister had to say on the deal.
Alors, ceux qui bloquent le plus, on les connaît tous, hein, ce sont les pays pétroliers, bien évidemment, la Russie, l'Inde, l'Arabie Saoudite, mais rejoints par beaucoup de pays émergents. Et vous avez des pays qui étaient plutôt avec nous au départ, mais au fur et à mesure que le temps passe, je pense en particulier aux petites îles, en réalité elles se disent bon bah si on a du financement pour l'adaptation, bof, à la limite on peut vivre sans un texte sur l'atténuation. Oui, enfin au point où on en est, même si on n'a pas la feuille de route, mais qu'on a au moins une mention des fossiles, je pense qu'on accepterait. Mais là, au stade où on est, on n'a plus rien.
Now let's shift our focus to Thailand. Miss Mexico Fatima Bosch has been crowned Miss Universe at a ceremony in Bangkok, marking the end of an exceptionally scandal-filled pageant season. The 25-year-old contestant had walked out of an event earlier in November after a Thai official publicly berated her in front of dozens of contestants and threatened to disqualify those who supported her. That dramatic turn was followed by a week later by the resignation of 2 judges, one of whom accused organizers of rigging the competition. These come as one of the world's longest-running beauty pageants faces questions of its relevancy and a declining audience. While many Mexicans celebrated her victory, as did others who had applauded her walkout, but some have also wondered if organizers gave the crown to make up for the earlier scandal. Let's in fact listen in to what Fatima had to say about her win and how others are reacting to it.
I would like people to remember me as a Miss Universe that wasn't afraid to be herself. That I believe always in the power of being authentic.
เม็กซิโกขออนุญาตไม่พูดถึงแล้วกันนะครับ เพราะว่าเอาให้แฟนๆนางงามเป็นคนพูดถึงดีกว่าสำหรับผมขอแสดงความเคารพกับผลการตัดสินแล้วก็โอเค for Mexico congratulations because I know now I think it's the time for celebrate the time for have fun and success and I do hope when she homecoming a lot of big event waiting for her By the way, I do support and congratulations again for Mexico fans.
I'm so grateful that all the Mexican fans and I want Thai and Mexican to continue this great relationship together. And now we have a pretty Mexican as well, and I would love to visit Mexico and then